Mark Kelly just faced the courtroom drama of a lifetime, and what happened next left everyone in Washington absolutely stunned. From explosive revelations to jaw-dropping courtroom moments, this is the moment you don't want to miss. The tension in Washington had reached an almost unbearable peak. Reports were spreading like wildfire. Mark Kelly, the once celebrated senator, was facing a court-martial that could change the political landscape overnight. The news wasn't just shocking, it was seismic. White House insiders were scrambling to confirm the details, while Capitol Hill buzzed with whispers of disbelief. Analysts had predicted a tough year for Kelly, but no one anticipated a scenario this catastrophic, one where a former astronaut and sitting senator could suddenly find himself facing legal consequences that could end his political career and alter the balance of power in Congress. The moment the announcement came, cameras flashed and journalists scrambled to capture reactions in real time. The footage showed Kelly's aides rushing through the halls, papers clutched tightly, their expressions taut with panic and disbelief. The story broke first in small circles. An internal memo leaked to the press detailing the court-martial's reasoning. Allegations were serious, citing actions that allegedly overstepped constitutional bounds. Within minutes, mainstream media outlets were analyzing every possible implication, framing this as a political earthquake. Social media exploded, with hashtags trending nationwide, each post dissecting the possibility of Kelly being imprisoned and what that meant for the Democratic majority. Inside the chambers, tension was almost tangible. Members of Congress whispered, the murmurs punctuated by the clicking of reporters' cameras and the low hum of conversations, trying to make sense of the unprecedented turn of events. Kelly, who had always maintained a poised public persona, now faced a storm that no amount of preparation could have fully anticipated. His legal team convened urgently, combing through procedural loopholes. But the weight of the decision issued swiftly, without precedent, pressed down like an iron ceiling. Experts were already speculating. Could this move energize opposition forces, shift voter sentiment, or even catalyze a broader political realignment in Washington? Meanwhile, Trump's statement had arrived, a brief but explosive announcement asserting that Kelly had crossed boundaries during his tenure, hinting that consequences were inevitable. The phrasing was deliberate, every word crafted to maximize impact, every sentence aimed at controlling the narrative. The timing was impeccable, coinciding with a high-profile hearing that had been expected to spotlight other political matters. Suddenly, all attention shifted. Kelly's name dominated headlines. Late-night commentators scrambled to assess potential fallout, and pundits debated whether this was a calculated strategic blow or the result of genuine judicial determination. The story had become impossible to ignore, a singular event drawing together media, political insiders, and the public into one intense vortex of speculation. For Kelly, the personal stakes were monumental. Beyond politics, this court-martial carried the threat of imprisonment, a reality that would have seemed surreal even a week prior. Colleagues expressed cautious concern, unsure how to approach the delicate situation publicly. Allies had to weigh loyalty against optics, balancing the desire to support Kelly with the knowledge that any misstep could magnify political vulnerabilities. The Senate floor, normally a controlled environment of debate and procedure, now buzzed with undercurrents of fear and uncertainty. Whispers of upcoming hearings, legal interpretations, and potential appeals dominated the conversations. No one could remember a moment with such immediate and tangible consequences for a sitting senator. As the hours passed, the drama intensified. Kelly's team called emergency meetings with top legal advisors, attempting to frame a response that could stabilize both public perception and political support. Every camera, every live broadcast, every tweet from political figures added to the pressure cooker atmosphere. Analysts dissected past statements, debated the nuances of his decisions, and speculated on how the Supreme Court, if involved, might respond. The narrative was building rapidly an evolving story with multiple layers, from legal implications to political fallout, personal reputations to national security considerations in parallel. The public reaction was a mix of shock, outrage, and fascination. Citizens followed every update, dissecting transcripts, videos, and press releases. Social media became a battlefield of opinion, with threads exploding over Kelly's accountability, Trump's timing, and the broader implications for governance. The court-martial, initially a quiet, legal maneuver, had become a defining national spectacle. Newsrooms ran continuous loops of coverage, while political strategists recalibrated messaging for upcoming elections. Every angle was analyzed, every potential consequence debated. For Washington insiders, this was not just another story. It was a historical pivot point, the kind of event that would be cited in political analysis for years to come. The intensity escalated further. When the first live footage of the court-martial proceedings emerged, Kelly appeared composed but visibly strained, responding to questions with calculated precision. The judge's statements were firm, deliberate, each word underscoring the seriousness of the charges. Spectators and press alike were stunned by the immediacy and gravity of the situation. Analysts commented on Kelly's demeanor, noting the tension in his voice, the subtle shifts in posture, and the interplay between legal restraint and political vulnerability. It was a moment where personal stakes, public scrutiny, and historical significance converged simultaneously, creating a spectacle that felt almost cinematic in its gravity. Within the political machine, reactions were immediate. Democrats convened emergency meetings, attempting to assess damage control and messaging strategies, while Republicans seized the opportunity to spotlight perceived missteps, calls for transparency, public statements, and rapid response teams deployed across social media platforms created a dynamic where every word mattered. Even casual observers felt the pull of the unfolding drama. The narrative compelling and intricate, a real-time study of political, legal, and personal stakes intersecting at a singular moment by the end of the day. Mark Kelly's story had transcended the legal realm entirely. It was no longer only a court-martial. It had become a defining chapter in American politics. The implications stretched far beyond the Senate chamber. Every broadcast, every analysis, and every social media post reinforced the narrative of a political titan facing unprecedented challenges. The world watched, riveted, as one of Washington's most prominent figures navigated the storm. And with each passing hour, the gravity of the moment intensified, leaving citizens, politicians, and analysts alike questioning what would happen next in this historic and explosive political saga. The morning after the court-martial announcement, the atmosphere in Washington was electric, almost surreal. News vans lined the streets outside the Capitol, journalists and camera crews jockeying for the best angle to capture reactions. Inside, the Senate was abuzz with speculation. Colleagues of Mark Kelly whispered behind closed doors, the tension palpable as aides hurriedly scanned legal documents and press releases. The city's political heartbeat had quickened every decision. Every word, every expression now scrutinized under a microscope. Analysts described it as a political shockwave, and the term didn't feel exaggerated. Kelly's legal team had spent the night reviewing the unprecedented charges, trying to map out a defense strategy under immense time pressure. They knew that the stakes extended far beyond the courtroom. The court-martial wasn't merely a legal proceeding. It was a pivotal moment that could reshape party dynamics, influence upcoming elections, and redefine public trust in elected officials. Every motion filed, every objection raised, carried the weight of national attention. Lobbyists, political operatives, and journalists monitored every development with bated breath, recognizing that this was a story that could dominate headlines for weeks, if not months. Meanwhile, social media erupted. Hashtags advocating for Kelly, questioning the motives behind the court-martial. and dissecting potential outcomes began trending almost instantly. Citizens engaged in heated debates online, parsing transcripts and news clips for evidence, theory, and insight. The sheer volume of posts reflected the unprecedented nature of the moment. Political commentators streamed live breakdowns, emphasizing not only the legality but also the optics of the situation. It was clear Mark Kelly's predicament had transcended the ordinary bounds of politics, entering a realm where public perception and legal reality collided dramatically inside the court-martial chamber. The energy was suffocating. Every statement by the presiding judge, every objection from Kelly's defense attorneys was noted meticulously. Camera crews documented every gesture, every pause, every subtle nuance. Legal analysts weighed in on the minutiae of procedural strategy, explaining to viewers how precedent, interpretation, and timing could all influence the outcome. Kelly's demeanor was focused but tense. The weight of history was visible in his posture, the careful cadence of his words, and the controlled intensity with which he addressed each accusation. He had faced public scrutiny before, but nothing of this magnitude had ever challenged his. Political, personal, and professional balance simultaneously. The Trump administration's influence was unmistakable. Analysts debated whether the timing of the court-martial had been purely judicial or politically calculated. Strategists on both sides speculated endlessly. Could this decision energize opposition voters, weaken Democratic standing, or provide a rallying point for Kelly's supporters? Every angle was examined, every implication debated. Political insiders whispered about contingency plans, while grassroots movements mobilized online, determined to influence public opinion in real time. The court-martial had quickly evolved from a procedural matter into a national spectacle, a defining story of power, accountability, and strategic maneuvering in Washington. As proceedings continued, new information surfaced. Witnesses were called, past decisions scrutinized, and the legal team scrambled to respond to unexpected twists. The courtroom became a theater of tension, drama, and strategic calculation. Every piece of evidence was analyzed for political impact as much as legal merit. Public perception mattered as much as legal interpretation, and Kelly's team had to navigate this dual battlefield with precision. Allies in Congress and key party members weighed public statements carefully, knowing that one misstep could be magnified into a political disaster. It was a balancing act that required composure, foresight, and relentless attention to detail. Across media platforms, coverage intensified. Live feeds broadcasted reactions from political commentators, citizens, and journalists alike. Each clip of Kelly's statements, every facial expression, and every judicial pronouncement was dissected frame by frame. Opinion polls started reflecting the immediate impact of the court-martial announcement. While some citizens voiced support for strict accountability, others expressed disbelief at the severity and swiftness of the actions taken. Analysts highlighted the unprecedented nature of a sitting senator facing such charges, emphasizing that history might view this as a pivotal moment in U.S. governance. The Senate floor, normally a place of procedural debate and legislative discussion, now felt like a high-stakes chessboard. Moves were calculated, alliances were tested, and strategic communication became as crucial as legal expertise. Kelly's colleagues observed closely, gauging responses, measuring statements, and preparing for a cascade of questions from constituents and media outlets alike. The courtroom drama was interwoven with political strategy, creating an intricate tapestry that defined the day's unfolding events. As the hours wore on, the gravity of the situation became undeniable. Every press conference, every tweet, every analyst breakdown reinforced the perception that Mark Kelly's career and reputation were under unparalleled scrutiny. The court-martial had become more than a legal proceeding, it was a symbol of accountability. Political tension and public fascination converging at once. Washington had rarely witnessed a spectacle of this magnitude. and every observer, from Capitol Hill insiders to citizens watching from home, felt the pulse of history in real time. By midday, the court-martial proceedings escalated into a defining national story. Reporters broadcast live updates, pundits debated potential consequences, and citizens engaged in vigorous online discourse. Every facet of the proceedings, Kelly's statements, the judge's rulings, and the administration's messaging was dissected and amplified. In a matter of hours, the political landscape had shifted, forcing both supporters and critics to recalibrate their strategies, narratives, and expectations. The saga was far from over, and one thing was clear. Kelly's journey through the court-martial would leave an indelible mark on Washington and beyond, shaping perceptions, policy, and politics for years to come. As the courtroom tension mounted, every word uttered, every objection raised, carried monumental weight. Senators and legal teams were hyper-aware that this wasn't just about procedure. This was history unfolding in real time. Kelly maintained a composed exterior, though subtle signs of strain flickered tightened jaw, brief pauses, and a slight narrowing of the eyes. Analysts dissected these micro-reactions live, noting how his measured responses contrasted sharply with the aggressive charges leveled against him, creating a drama that captivated viewers nationwide. Inside the chamber, the atmosphere was electric. The judge's gavel echoed ominously as procedural rulings were made, sending ripples of speculation throughout the courtroom. Witnesses were called with rapid precision, their testimonies scrutinized for both legal accuracy and political impact. Journalists typed furiously. Live-streamed updates flashed across social media, and millions tuned in, eager to witness history. The court-martial had transformed into a national spectacle, a mix of legal procedure, political theater, and public fascination. Kelly's defense team was on high alert. Strategizing under immense pressure, they navigated procedural challenges with meticulous care. Every motion and objection was calculated to protect his legal standing while managing public perception. Political consultants offered advice from the sidelines, analyzing both legality and optics. Any misstep could be amplified by opponents and media, turning the court-martial into a political weapon. Kelly's career, reputation, and future aspirations hung delicately in the balance, making precision and timing paramount. Outside, the city buzzed with activity. Crowds of supporters and protesters gathered, waving signs and chanting slogans. Social media exploded with videos, memes, and commentary. Hashtags related to Kelly's court-martial trended within minutes, reaching audiences far beyond Washington. Polls reflected the immediate emotional response. Supporters rallied. Critics questioned the legal grounds. Analysts highlighted the unprecedented nature of a sitting senator facing court-martial charges, emphasizing that the nation was witnessing a historic moment in governance and accountability. The courtroom drama intensified as new evidence emerged. Documents previously overlooked became central, sparking heated discussions among senators, attorneys, and analysts. Each piece of evidence was examined for its legal and political implications. Kelly's team responded with rapid precision, countering claims, highlighting inconsistencies, and framing narratives in his favor. The judge's interventions and clarifications added layers of complexity, forcing everyone to adapt constantly. The interplay of law, politics, and public perception made every moment critical. Media coverage became relentless. News networks broadcast reactions from political pundits, citizen commentators, and legal experts. Segments highlighted procedural fairness, political ramifications, and the human drama of a senator under scrutiny. Viral clips amplified minor moments, often dictating the day's narrative faster than traditional reporting. Analysts noted that immediate public scrutiny at this scale was virtually unprecedented. Where perception mattered as much as law itself, Kelly's colleagues monitored closely, evaluating the broader political impact. Every vote, statement, and alliance was under review in light of the court-martial. Senior senators debated strategy, weighing party expectations against constituent reactions. Meanwhile, Kelly's communications team prepared statements to clarify positions and manage messaging across social platforms. The court-martial had become multidimensional, merging legal, political, and public spheres in high-stakes drama. As afternoon progressed, courtroom energy reached a crescendo. Each exchange and testimony added layers to an already high-pressure situation. The nation remained glued to screens, social media channels flooded with commentary, and analysts predicted this day's events would dominate headlines for weeks. Every action had the potential to shift public perception, influence political strategy, and alter Kelly's Senate trajectory. It was a vivid reminder that in politics, stakes are rarely confined to the courtroom. Perception, momentum, and timing can define outcomes as much as legal arguments. By this stage, it was clear the proceedings had entered uncharted territory. Kelly's measured composure contrasted with mounting pressure, creating dramatic tension that gripped viewers nationwide. While the final verdict remained pending, one fact was undeniable. The court-martial had become a defining political event, shaping discourse, party dynamics, and Kelly's future in ways few could have anticipated. Every citizen watching understood that the implications would reverberate far beyond the courtroom walls. The courtroom fell into a tense silence as the final witnesses concluded their statements. Kelly's legal team, battle-tested and precise, carefully weighed their closing arguments. Every word had to strike a delicate balance, asserting innocence, clarifying ambiguities, and appealing to both legal reasoning and public perception. The stakes were immense, beyond the immediate legal consequences. The outcome would reverberate through Washington's political landscape, shaping narratives for months to come. Spectators in the gallery leaned forward, eyes fixed on the proceedings. Journalists scribbled notes, their cameras capturing every gesture, every subtle reaction. Analysts on live broadcasts dissected body language, tone, and phrasing, providing minute-by-minute updates to audiences nationwide. Social media exploded with clips of dramatic exchanges, viral moments, and heated commentary. The court-martial had transcended mere legality, becoming a cultural event, dissected and debated in real time by millions. Kelly himself maintained a disciplined exterior, his gaze steady. Though tension was evident in fleeting expressions, the tightening of his lips, the subtle narrowing of his eyes. Political observers noted that his calm under scrutiny contrasted sharply with the intensity of the charges, giving an impression of measured resilience. Supporters drew confidence from his demeanor, while opponents analyzed every hesitation or pause for potential weaknesses. In politics, optics were nearly as influential as outcomes as arguments concluded. The judge's voice carried weighty authority. Legal intricacies and procedural clarifications highlighted the extraordinary nature of the case. Both prosecution and defense navigated these moments with extreme precision, ensuring that no argument went unchallenged and no nuance unnoticed. The courtroom was not just a theater of law, it was a battlefield where strategy, rhetoric, and timing intertwined. Outside, the city remained alive with reaction. Supporters and protesters congregated near the courthouse, their voices echoing across streets and social media feeds. Hashtags related to Kelly's court-martial dominated trending lists, sparking national debate. Public discourse ranged from legal analysis to political speculation, amplifying the event far beyond the courtroom. The spectacle underscored the merging of legal accountability with public scrutiny, a phenomenon unique to high-profile political cases. Political analysts emphasized the far-reaching implications. Every vote, statement, and policy stance Kelly had taken came under renewed examination. Senior senators and party leaders debated strategies, considering both the immediate court-martial consequences and long-term political impact. Allies and rivals alike adjusted messaging, anticipating the ripple effects of the verdict. The courtroom drama had become a fulcrum, influencing alliances, narratives, and electoral positioning. As deliberations stretched into the afternoon, tension was palpable. Kelly's defense highlighted procedural oversights and inconsistencies, while prosecutors reinforced the gravity of the alleged misconduct. Every exhibit, testimony, and objection contributed to a high-stakes chess-match legal precision entwined with political calculation. The courtroom functioned as both a legal arena and a stage for public perception, with each party acutely aware of how history might remember their performance. Social media's influence intensified. Clips showcasing Kelly's calm rebuttals, pointed questions from attorneys, and the judge's clarifications went viral within minutes. Commentary flowed from mainstream media, independent analysts, and everyday citizens alike. Polls reflected the public's reaction in real time, influencing how stakeholders in Washington evaluated potential outcomes. The court-martial had become an intersection of law, politics, and mass media, creating a narrative with unprecedented immediacy. As evening approached, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew increasingly charged. Everyone awaited the final rulings, acutely aware that the next decisions would define Kelly's immediate future. His supporters held their breath while critics weighed potential setbacks. Each legal maneuver was scrutinized for both procedural legitimacy and political optics. The suspense was palpable. Every word and reaction had the potential to shift narratives, sway opinions, and set the tone for what would follow in national politics. By the time the final statements concluded, it was evident that this event had transcended its legal foundation. Kelly's composure, the intensity of the charges, and the high-stakes courtroom strategy combined to create a moment that would be dissected, analyzed, and remembered. The court-martial had become a historic political spectacle, one that blurred lines between legality, media, and public opinion. Citizens, analysts, and politicians alike understood that the consequences, both immediate and long-term, would ripple far beyond the courtroom, shaping the trajectory of Kelly's career and Washington's political landscape for years to come.